Hey guys, Andres for the NewsReel here, and I wanted to do a reintroduction to my channel called The Tech Corner. The Tech Corner is actually an extension of my NewsReel, and my NewsReel is exactly what it sounds like, a newsreel where I cover various topics of news from current events, politics, economic, social, all the way to tech, media, and music as well. But this is about the tech industry, and more specifically things that I use for work and play as well, because let me recap some of my background for those that actually missed my video the first time. I'll leave in the description the link down below to the original video when I introduced this segment last year. So what this is that I work in construction, residential, not commercial, and I also am a real estate broker, and on top of that I'm also a property manager. And when I'm not doing any of those, I go back to my duties as a husband and father. So I have to balance all of that, and because I am in, for the most part, a family business, the lines of business and personal get blurred. So that's where I've had to find a device that can meet both my business needs in the enterprise segment and of course my personal needs, because I have two children. One of them just turned 3, my other one is well on his way to turning 1 in a couple of months. So there's moments in time that I have to capture. So as my daily drivers, currently I'm using the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge and also the HTC One M8. The S7 Edge I use on T-Mobile, and the HTC One M8 I use on Verizon. I carry two devices because one's a personal number, and I use Google Voice for business, so I can make my Google Voice number ring just about anything. And I also use it for my computer and such, so that's how I stay in the know, and that's how I stay in touch with my client base and my vendors, suppliers, and my employees. So I am a BlackBerry fan. I have been a BlackBerry fan since 2007 when my brother first got me the BlackBerry Curve. And Blackberries, it's been a roller coaster of a ride since then, honestly, where they've had some high points, they have some low points, and some really low points, and right now their fate is still up in the air with there really isn't much positive output to be seen. So I don't use a BlackBerry currently anymore as my daily driver. For the first time since 2007, I'm actually using a Samsung as my daily driver. I had the SCH i730, which was my second smartphone, and it's still one of my most favorite I ever had. So that's what I used way back when, before I got my first BlackBerry. But at any rate, the tech that I get is tech that I use for business and personal. I've said that before. It's just that I'm not being sponsored, so I have to get it on my own, and it sometimes hurts the wallet. So I bring a perspective to my tech commentary and reviews from a person that is a business owner, has to balance things out in terms of his expenses versus that of just getting a review unit and just reviewing it for the sake of a job, right? I mean, it'd be cool if I were able to do that, but unfortunately I don't get sponsored, I don't get review units. So anything and everything that you have seen me review has been items that I have purchased, and if I have a return window and I don't like the product, I send it back, and I base my reviews and opinions based on that experience. So my refresh rate tends to be about every 6 months. Not because I look forward to getting a device every 6 months. That used to be every year, honestly. But every 6 months is usually how long Android devices last me. Because at first, I only get flagships because I need software updates. And because of Verizon, I can only get Verizon branded products unless it's an unlocked phone like an iPhone that can work on it. But unless Verizon blesses an Android unlocked phone, which most of the time they don't, you won't be able to use it even if it has CDMA bands for their network. But Verizon being Verizon, they don't care. It has to be one of theirs, or unless they certify it for use there. So because it's Verizon, its updates can take considerably longer to come out, and I have not had a good experience with Lollipop on Android. It has been frustrating, so I'm glad to be on Marshmallow, and I have made it known before that I much preferred KitKat Android 4.4 over Android 5.0. Android 5.1.1 was a little better, but there were still problems with the battery it really hindered my phones. But this year Verizon has brought their A game to the updates, so my HTC One M8 is running Marshmallow, which is pretty awesome, and the battery has greatly improved on that one, which I'm very impressed about, and I want to give my impressions about that if time permits eventually. But at any rate, I just wanted to reintroduce the channel because I am not just simply a review channel. I am reviewing items that I use for work that I think others find readily accessible or might want to make the investment to do so, because I much prefer to have a BlackBerry, but because the limitations that unfortunately I have on BlackBerry, if it had Android runtime at least 4.4, then I would be much better off. But since I have grown dependent on actual tap to pay, which I do use Android Pay, and I do most of all use Samsung Pay because of convenience as well, those items have become such an integral part of what I do now that it's really difficult to be without it once you have it. It's kind of like a smartwatch. You don't know you need one until you get it. And I will be giving impressions on a head-to-head versus the original Pebble Steel that I had, that I showed off the timeline updates, which was 3.8 back in the day, and now that my new Pebble, which is a Pebble Time Steel. So I will compare them as well, because I haven't seen one of those comparison videos. I've only seen impressions videos on them on YouTube, so I want to give my perspective on that as well. So that's the perspective that I bring. It's real. If it's a device that I am not happy with, it's because I spent the money. I'm not just being ungrateful. Someone gives me a review unit, I'm like, oh yeah, this thing is not working out for me, I take it back, I don't want it. It's not like that. If you're in a carrier, you either have to renew a contract or get into a 2-year agreement, whether it's you're financing a device or getting a contract. That's still considered a contract. So you have the average time is 14 days to try something out, but let's not kid ourselves. 2 weeks isn't always enough time, especially if the phone itself has software bugs that need to be updated to be fixed. You're not getting the whole experience out of it until the update is pushed, and depending on what carrier you're on, you're probably not going to see that for a long time. So you can't really get a great feel for a device. Yes, first impressions, but you can't get a good feel for the overall device until you used it out. But after you used it out, you probably used up your return window if you don't like it, right? So I am not one of those reviewers that just test the phone or a device, whatever it is, for 7 days and then passes it on to someone else, and then they write this big old long thing and then judge a device. The fate of the device could rest on their opinion as well. It has to make that great first impression. But unless it's like Pocket Now that actually revisits those devices they review months down the line, I don't pay much attention to the rest of the blogosphere, because, well, they just review a device and move on to the next one, and that's not the kind of world that I live in. I need a device that will last for me, and the ones that have lasted the most have been Blackberries up until last year. Unfortunately, this year I do not have a Blackberry as my daily driver. Someone else in the office has a Blackberry, and I'm looking forward to testing Blackberry 10.3.3 when it launches in June, because they got delayed, and so I want to deliver some impressions on that as well. But until then, I do have some videos that are completed. They will be popping up. I'm scheduling them out just so I can have some content. There's some other interesting stuff in the pipeline that I hope you guys will enjoy. And I know that BlackBerry is the reason my channel has actually been put on some kind of map. So I want to thank you guys that have subscribed. I want to thank you guys that have liked. And I want to really thank those of you that provided constructive criticism, because the first season, as I'm calling it, was an experimental stage, and the one I experimented on the most was with an article or a series of articles that I originally did a few years ago called BlackBerry versus Android versus iOS versus Windows 10 Mobile, and I just took the liberty of just trying random stuff for those things and see what stuck. And now that I know what stuck and what didn't work out, I'm happy to just polish what works and proceed beyond that. But because of my busy work schedule, I don't have the luxury of just posting whenever I want. So I'll get to whatever I can as soon as I can. So before I let you guys go, let me tell you a little bit about my technical background, because I do have some experience with some software development, not so much actually developing the code, but I was the guinea pig for some of the developers that you guys probably know now. There's a little company called WhatsApp. Yeah, I was one of their early testers on the alpha stage. I volunteered my BlackBerry Curve back then to be able to work with them, and I did so for the first 3 years with them, and they given me basically a license for free for the rest of my life. So I do thank him for the opportunity, and they were one of several developers of applications that gave me the opportunity to try things out, and I was really happy to be involved in that process, because it really shows how difficult it is to develop an app. Sometimes it's assumed to be free, and a lot of people don't like ads, so there's a lot of work that goes into developing applications. And I think it's unfair sometimes when there's a developer who poured his heart out and people don't receive it because it's too overpriced or something like that. Well, these guys don't work for free. I mean, a shout out to the developers that are hardworking and they're bringing excellent content, and especially supporting platforms like BlackBerry 10, because I was definitely involved with a lot of those guys, and I'm happy to see some of them that are still updating applications, because some say that BlackBerry world is basically a wasteland, and it's not. There's some really hardworking app developers there, including on the Windows Store side for Windows 10 Mobile, and it's harder for those guys because these guys are getting, in some cases, are getting legal letters from for example, Snapchat. Oh my goodness, I don't understand why they have to be so hard on some of the developers at the Windows 10 Mobile sphere, because they just keep getting legal challenges because there's a great third app support there, but there is no native app support done by, like, say, Snapchat and those other guys. So it's not fair. These guys do put in their hard work, and again, a shout out to them, especially those that have let me participate from the alpha to the beta stages. And I'm still willing. If time permits, I have some other devices that I can definitely try out those items on. So thanks a lot, guys, for tuning in. I will be posting content pretty soon. Next week, after this video is posted, my first video should be up, and then a couple of more that are completed in the pipeline after that, and other ones that I'm definitely working on. And coming soon, I am doing an Android Pay versus Samsung Pay. I have not seen one of those videos, and there is a trick or inconvenience to it that had not been highlighted that I learned the hard way. So I want to share that with you, and it has a lot to do with smart lock on your Android devices. So anyway, subscribe if you like if you do. Thanks a lot again. Have a good one.